Hey guys, welcome to another episode at my YouTube channel, KBS Music Online. As I promised in a previous episode, I would dedicate some time to talking about my inspirations and how I got into music, songwriting, how I learned to play instruments, and what inspires me really. I want to start off by saying a little bit about who I am, as I haven't done that in any of the other episodes. I am 38 and I live in Molde, a rather small but beautiful city on the west coast of Norway. And I've been playing instruments and singing since I was very young. In fact, my parents tell me that I sang before I could speak. But the first sort of major breakthrough in my discovery and love of music came in 1987 with the release of Michael Jackson's Bad album. And I remember getting this on a cassette tape, and I actually had to get the cassette tape replaced because I played it so much that it broke somehow. But I remember the songs on that album being strikingly well produced. Later, obviously, realizing that it was Quincy Jones's magic touch that perhaps helped Michael shape those songs into a number of big hits. And that sort of opened my horizon a bit, and I started really appreciating pop music in its wide sense. Pop music in particular has always been the biggest love for me. I mean, I love classical music, I love movie scores, I love rock music, I love certain types of jazz, which I will touch upon a bit later. But pop music in its wide sense is where I landed. Both then and now. A couple of years later, I started taking piano lessons, or to be more precise, they were keyboard lessons, so they were sort of chord-based, chord and melody-based lessons. And I also started learning to play the trumpet, both of these around the same time. I quickly needed to use what I learned to be creative. I think I wanted to not just play the songs handed to me by my tutors, my teachers, but I also wanted to take the notes that I learned, the chords that I learned, and create stuff of my own. But that didn't happen until my 10th birthday, which I was given a cassette tape again. And it was the Beatles' White Album. And I was given this on my 10th birthday, and I remember putting it on, not really knowing what to think of it, because of its very vast variety of genres, really. I mean, I didn't really know anything about the Beatles at that time. That album made me realize that songwriting and creating music, whatever genre, but particularly vocal music, could be so many things. I'm not going to say I started writing songs immediately, I did not, but it didn't take too many years. I believe I was around 13 when I wrote my first song. A simple tune, very melodic. I could still play that song for you. The lyrics were in Norwegian on that very first attempt. Anyway, that was the beginning of my journey into songwriting. And I very quickly found that that was something that I could do. I like artists that find ways of evolving through time, through how the genres evolve, that can still hold on to the melodic qualities that I think has always been present in the highest quality of pop music. So be it, you know, the Eagles in the 1970s, or Duran Duran, Madonna, Michael Jackson in the 80s. I can as much appreciate bands like Nirvana, Pearl Jam in the 90s, you know, with the grunge age and stuff, because many of their songs still have that core element that sort of supersedes the packaging, the production value. Some of you might think, is the Beatles and Michael Jackson and, you know, old stuff the only thing that I listen to? It certainly is not. I suppose I have a root in the more old school way of writing songs. I mean, over the last few years, it's clear that the EDM genre and the other genres related to that are very clever producers, and they're really good at paying attention to detail, particularly in vocal production. I'm very impressed, and there are a lot of things that I don't know how to do yet in that field, certainly. So when we talk about my current inspirations, it probably will still sound like artists that many of you think are old. I'm a big fan of Justin Timberlake. There's another Justin that I like quite a bit of, believe it or not. Elton John has been important to me, also because the piano is what I normally use when I write songs or anything with keys. So Elton John, particularly Elton in the 70s, not so much because I love the sound of the 70s, but just because the sound of his records from the beginning and at least up until Captain Fantastic, I suppose, all those albums with Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and all of that in the middle, they just really have productions that lift the melody and the harmony, which is one of the things I believe Elton John is among the best at doing. And Paul McCartney, he's such an exciting artist to pay close attention to. I mean, he's been active since, as a recording and artist or part of the Beatles, since 1961. So it's like, and his legacy of, you know, the Beatles is well established among anyone, whether you like it or not. But once he went solo and with Wings, some of you may think that that didn't work. But truth is, there is so much stuff. There is so much music that Paul wrote and recorded, that there is something to like for anyone. So that again affirms what I learned when I was given the White Album by the Beatles for my 10th birthday, right? That pop music can be so much. You don't have to limit yourself to, you know, just that type of pop music or just this or just that type of instrumentation. A more current songwriter that I really like is, or people that have inspired me are Robbie Williams, and then it's natural to mention Guy Chambers, his collaborator for a lot of his really great stuff. I also love his nemesis, I suppose some would say, Gary Barlow, who's done tremendously well, both as a part of Take That and his solo stuff. I really, really admire his melodic heft. Sean Lennon, one of John Lennon's two sons, is an interesting songwriter, I think. I love a record by Sean Lennon called Friendly Fire. It's almost like a concept album in a way, but and actually he made music videos, quite cinematic music videos for every single track on that album. It's really something different, but what really got me was the fantastic songwriting, and also the arrangements and the production on that record is, you know, something that has really inspired me to reach a bit further when putting my tracks and my songs together. And if we move into Norway, obviously the greatest export from Norway ever in the pop music world are a-ha, the band, who are still going strong. I really love Paul Voktar's songwriting. And lately, I suppose it's Kygo. Did you know that his first name is actually the same as mine? Kyrre. He might say Kyrre, I'm not sure about that. But he's done tremendously well. And, you know, very inspiring to see that that's possible. I suppose his story is not that dissimilar from Justin Bieber's, because they both started off as people using YouTube as a channel of showing the world what they could do, and then it just took off. I'm a huge admirer of Espen Lind, who has quite a career as an artist himself, but mainly again as a singer and a songwriter. He's always been on my list of people that inspire me. It's also worth mentioning, I guess, that I've also gone through periods where I really loved pop rock music with brass sections or horns or whatever you want to call them. Bands like Chicago, Tower of Power, Earth, Wind and Fire. I suppose that was only natural because I played the trumpet myself and did certain, you know, parts of what I did were similar in style. So when and how and where do I write my music? What inspires me in sort of my environment? I found out in my early teens that a great place to write songs, or to come up with ideas, that's more accurate, was riding the bus. So I would sit on the bus and I would simply hum little phrases of melody to myself as we were going through town or wherever I was going. And some of these bits of melody turned into the start of songs that I, you know, completed later. So that might be an idea for some of you, if you're wondering. You know, try taking the bus. You might get some great ideas coming out of a bus ride. What I try to do with songs that I write now, because my songs are also quite different in tone and mood, is to find a balance between the traditional way of approaching the recording process and also, if it fits, introduce elements of the way pop music is perceived and expected to be in 2018. And that is an ongoing learning process for me that I find very interesting, sometimes quite challenging, because I don't necessarily possess all the skills necessary to pull it all together by myself. And that's also worth mentioning, that I'm very much a one-man show in what I do when I write and record and produce. I don't have a songwriting team. I don't have a go-to producer. Every time you sort of make progress, it's a very rewarding experience, and I absolutely love creating. I hope to be doing this for lots and lots of years, as it is such a great thing to be doing. And it also feels right to be doing something that not only am I very passionate about, and I happen to have certain amount of skill at doing it, but it's also something that I've dedicated a lot of time, and I suppose money as well, into through my education, through the 20 plus years of doing all sorts of projects and creating music, playing in bands and all of that. So to sum it all up, I would say no one has been as inspiring to me as Paul McCartney has. Not necessarily because I emulate the way that he does things, but because he's been going for so long and he has such a wide spectrum of expression through his choice of instrumentation and genre, and you know, anything from acoustic simple songs like Blackbird or Put It There to more elaborate rock productions like Helter Skelter or My Brave Face, or you know, I could mention so many songs. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to write them in the comments or send me a message, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. And don't forget to press the subscribe button, and if you like this video, I might make some more, so press the like button as well. Alright, until next time, see ya.